So, welcome once again to Destination Uri TV coverage of the 2020 Down Senior, Intermediate and Junior Football Championships. We have just come through the finals weekend and we're here tonight to talk about that. My name is Jarlath Tinnelly. I'm once again joined by Patsy Russell and Paul Rooney. Hello, lads.
Oh, Jarlath, I'm glad to be on the again.
Yes, listen, it's been a roller coaster 5 weeks, Patsy and Paul. Some fantastic games, and you know, I've heard it said by quite a few people, one of the best championships in the county in many years.
Absolutely, Jarlath. You know, our county secretary Sean McIntyre said one time about the Downway. Well, I think the Downway is a brilliant example to other counties, and I think this county board has to be congratulated, for getting all these championships done and dusted. And I think it was 38 days. The first game, I think, was Ballyhone and Dara Cross on the 13th of August, Jarlath. So sometimes we all have a habit of maybe slating the county board, I think, but we have to laud them and praise them because everybody is delighted with this championship. No matter where I go, people are praising it, Jarlath. And, all the four codes still have the hurling final to be replayed yet, but there's been some great games, as you said there at the top of the show, and I'm sure Paul would agree with that.
Yeah, I certainly would, Patsy. And 5.5 weeks, it's been brilliant for me. I've enjoyed every minute of it and been involved in a lot of it and seen lots and lots of football. And we're delighted here to be on the show, to discuss through it tonight. And me and Patsy at some stage tonight's going to launch our team of the championship. I'm going to do the junior and intermediate, and Patsy's going to go to the senior team, and hopefully the powers that be's all looking in, Jarlath, and to get, a view of our insights to these footballers that were unearthed in this championship. I have enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It has flashed past, and I'll be talking to the managers there week to week, and you're talking to them on a Sunday doing an interview, maybe after a real dogfight, and the next thing you're seeing them again, the following Sunday, and they're preparing for something different. It's been brilliant, Jarlath. Like, even all the championships seems to have been firecrackers this year, Armagh, Tyrone and all, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the crack tonight to get these teams and discuss the finals with you, Jarlath.
Well, there's no, Paul and Patsy, there definitely has been standout moments in that 5.5 weeks across all three championships, and we've seen teams rise to the top this year that have been in the shadows for long and many a year. And it's been an incredible roller coaster journey for those clubs. The senior coverage, of course, was primarily through the delivered through Park TV and the county board and the Dara McCoy company, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job. And it's a great shop window for our club football within this county. And Patsy, I just concur totally with the sentiments that you made in relation to what Sean Og and Michael O'Rourke and Jack, the chairman, have put in place for this championship. It wasn't an easy task. There was always that question mark and uncertainty about what was coming, and because everything else that was going on was so fluid. Stuff was changing from week to week and day to day. So I think them men can be rightly proud of the job that they've done.
Yeah,
and all the
absolutely.
committees in the background, Jarlath, too. Like, lots of committees working there. I'd say you've been a member of CCC. You were busy enough over the 5 weeks as well, looking at the Santon ovens and Santon owns and different incidents that went on, and that all goes on in the background of this as well. And there's all committees running all that, and there's referees organised, and there's officials to be organised, and there's loads of committees, Jarlath, involved in getting this here to where it is. And like, it's been phenomenal, and none of them committees have been in any way found wanting, and we've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
certainly have. And as I say, I think the people at home really enjoyed it, Jarlath, and all over the world as well. So that the same games this year that probably, say for instance, this COVID-19 hadn't been with us, obviously there'd have been bigger crowds at matches and stuff, but people weren't able to go. They're limited to 400, and as I say, they just sat in their own homes, the comfort of their own houses, and from what I can gather, they really enjoyed all the games that were shown. As you said there, DMC events and our friends from Cork and from the Down County Board, our PR committee, and I have to single out a panelist on our show here for all our help, Paula McGee, you know, and the Down PRO as well, Fiona Murphy, and as I say, Jack Devaney, his presentations, you know, they were the highest degree out, and not one person, you know, entered the field. You know what I mean, Jarlath? So, as I say, you have to applaud all these people, and it's not just one. It's a whole, as Paul said there at the top of the show, it's a whole lot of different committees and different groups and what have you. You know, we had a big team there in Uri, and everybody was singing at the same hymn sheet as far as I was concerned.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to suggest here we get straight into it, lads. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the Patsy. I tell you what we'll do before we go to the junior. Right, there's one age group there we never really mentioned over the period of the show, which was the minor championship. The final, of course, was on last week, Saturday. Now, Bourne run out convincing winners. Was it 4-18-5 against Breda?
Yeah. To me, Jarlath, this is one of the best. I've seen quite a few minor teams over the years, but to me, this is one of the best minor teams ever I've seen. And they've been together, I think, from under 10 level. I think they won the All-Ireland Taylor as well, possibly this group. And as I said, I don't think they've ever been beaten. And you know, they scored something like there we see Patrick McCarthy. Patrick was the captain of the Bourne team, and they had Zach Murdoch there at full forward, 3 goals and a point, Jarlath. And young Niall Toner, 110 to his credit, you know. So there was 2 lads that scored 4-11 and 4-18. And you have to give Breda credit for getting to the final. Jody Gormley was managing them. And there you can see the background, the background team. There are some very experienced men, Owen McCartan, Willie McMahon, to name a few. You know, they really work hard for, as all teams with their youth. You know what I mean? So a proud day. And there we see Rory Musson in the shot. And we think of the Musson family at this time. Noel Musson was a great Gael, and he'd be a sad miss to both his family and to Bourne GFC, Jarlath.
Yeah. Yes. It's
Jarlath, we touched a wee bit on it last week in the show, and we discussed this Bourne team, and like they're proving to be some outfit. The one the Fela and the one the Paul McGuire, and I don't think they have ever. What I'm hearing about them, Jarlath, and I was doing a wee bit of inquiring about them as you do, they have never been beat in a competitive game at any age level, these boys here, apparently. And apparently the finished article, and like the Bourne men will be all hoping and waiting for these boys to come and step forward and step into the next stage of it. And we all know they've had players in the past and they've won plenty of, like, out of the last 10 minor championships, Jarlath, I'd say Bourne have won 5 or 6 of them. And like that hasn't really fulfilled onto the senior outfit. You know what I mean? As we all know, like they're chipping about at the senior level, but they're not coming near the Kilcoos. But we'll be hoping these boys here can step into the breach and they can bring them forward. Certainly in all Bourne teams, they throw the might of the club behind them, and when they have a good panel, they work them. And you'd love to see them coming, Jarlath, and putting Bourne back on the map again. And apparently they're the real deal now, from what I'm hearing, Jarlath.
I suppose, Paul, that has always been one of the conundrums over the years, and I'm sure Down is not the only county that it happens in, where outstanding underage players, you know, for whatever reason, the majority of them don't come through to senior football. Well, there's frustration at lack of game time or other interests take over. But you mentioned there, Patsy, or Paul, about the amount of county championships that Bourne have won at minor level over the past decade. Well, there was a period there, I think, where Straver had won 5 or 6 as well over 12 years. You know, going back a generation. And yeah, I mean, like, it's probably fair to say that you know, that never manifested itself then at senior level. Where Kilcoo was the opposite. They were able to build and you know, use the disappointments of underage defeats to spur them on to senior greatness. But that is the thing. I mean, like, you have 50 or 60, or, well, let's be reasonable. You have 30 to 40 outstanding club players in a club, but only 15 of them can take the field at any one time. And it's any solutions to that one, Patsy? I know it definitely is a conundrum.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, you can put in a big team in that if you wanted. Like, we talked there about Kilcoo one time, the All-Ireland final at 45 in the panel, Jarlath, and as you say, there's 15 plus maybe 5, 6 subs. So there's 23, 24 lads wouldn't get on, but they make up the teams, and that's what it's all about. It's there giving support to the first 15 and the first 20, or whatever the case may be. And I say it's great to have numbers like that. A lot of teams are struggling maybe to get 15 or 20 players out in the field.
Yeah.
You know, some of them at the bare minimum, but as I say, you know, a lot of these clubs put effort in from youth right from the start. You know, under sixes now and what have you. And it's great to see, you know, even the girls as well. We can't forget about the ladies here, Jarlath. And there's an awful lot of effort goes on behind the scenes in this county with ladies football, and even young boys and girls with hurling and camogie. You know, all these coaches have to be congratulated without a shadow of a doubt. You know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, listen, we'll start off then with the St. Paul's Oculus na Fin final. St. Paul's run out 2-6 to 0-10 winners there. The signs were there from early on in the season. The form, they were in incredible form in them early league games and carried that over into the championship. But it's still a milestone trophy for that club to win, isn't it, Paul? We'll start with you, Paul.
It is. Brilliant for them. And I myself, Jarlath, I talked them up all year, and I talked them up in the league, and I mentioned about the players they had coming, and like I'd be in contact with the club, and like I'm hearing out of the club that there's loads underage coming, and brilliant to see them lifting that trophy on Friday night, Jarlath. I was down in the Goldside camera again, and like Hollywood and Bangor were they're operating from in Newton Ards, and like fair play to them. They've developed some crop of lads from in around that area and played brilliant stuff. And like I talked about Sean Tucker, I talked about the Eastwoods, and I was there on Friday night, and I tipped them on the show last week. And I know you weren't on, Jarlath, you hadn't got over the disappointment from Rostravi yet, but I tipped them anyhow last week on the show, and Patsy and all the boys all along they were all tipping against them. But I have to say one thing: they were brilliant. And I was there, and I was year, Jarlath. It's their second year in a final and losing it. You know what I mean? And I was on the goal line, and Oculus na Fin were leading coming into the dying embers of it, and St. Paul's had missed 4 or 5 easy chances, Jarlath. And I was just saying to myself, you just need to get the ball to young Eastwood, and you know, in the middle of the field. You just need to get the ball to Patrick Eastwood. I was saying that to myself, and funny enough, they did get the ball to Patrick Eastwood. They got a point to level it on in injury time, and they won it fairly easy in injury time or in the extra time, Jarlath. Well, I was delighted to see it. I was delighted for them as a club, and I was talking to them before the match, and several of them had never ever played in Park Essen in their lives, Jarlath. It was the first time ever they were in the park, and they went out of it with a trophy. And Heather Heffernan's an all credit. Like, we interviewed him at half time. He's a manager. He's a wheelchair bound fella, and like he come over to me, and he's full of spirit, Jarlath, and he come over flying across the field at half time in the wheelchair, and he says to me, "You're somebody," he says, and I said, "What's wrong with you?" He says, "You could have come over to me," and the wheelchair didn't annoy him at all, Jarlath. He's full of enthusiasm, and he's a great setup there, and I enjoyed all the crack with him and the whole camaraderie with him during the whole championship. And I have to say it, and I mean it. I tipped them all along, and I'm hoping to see them doing well in intermediate next year, Jarlath.
Well, Paul, you've mentioned there your tipping capabilities twice at the start of that and the end, but you know, I need to bring a wee bit of reality to this now. Your tips haven't been that hot now all throughout the 5 weeks now. I have to tell you, if myself, yourself, and Patsy were in a, ones, you know, if there was a league now of tipsters, now you'd be in the basement. That's all I'm saying, right? Oh, very good. Patsy, listen. Paul, he'll never have to pay for a drink now the next time he's up around Hollywood. But what have you to add to that?
Yeah, well, you have to take your hat off to St. Paul's. 41 years they've been trying. I think I told you before, I actually commentated on the way in an under-16B final in 2002, and they got a bit of a tank in that day against Saville. But they were in the semi-final last year, and Paul's right in what he says. He's talked them up this whole championship, and they beat a good Drummond side. Let's be realistic here. Drummond were hot favourites to win that championship, but. You take your hat off to Peter Harper and Paddy Hannigan. They worked with them boys and worked. And as I always say, Jarlath, keep knocking at the door. That door will eventually open to you. You must, and as I say, goals win games. They got 2 of them. Our good friend Sean Tucker after 3 minutes, and then Niall Grimley there at the end. The high ball across. The goalkeepers don't like that, Jarlath, and goals win games. But what I didn't actually see the game live. I seen it the next day. But what I seen was both teams, as Paul has touched on earlier there, had enough chances to win the game in normal time. Both teams had, and it was wide after wide after wide. I suppose, the nerves kept to some of the players, but credit St. Paul's, the drew it level in normal time, but Oxen have been a bit bitterly disappointed. That's 2 finals in a row, and they played some great football along the way. But maybe it's a case of third time lucky. We have to remember here, Jarlath, that Bright won it last year, and they had been beat in 6 junior championship finals before. So, if at first you don't succeed, try again. That's the motto in my book, And credit to St. Paul's, that first title. They'll be playing intermediate championship football next year. That is a big step for them, lads. And I tell you what, no team will look forward to meeting them. And good luck to them and fair play to them. Peter Harper and Paddy Hannigan have to be congratulated. And we had your man on last week, but I was actually off the air. Was it the secretary? Was it Paul O'Connor, Paul, you were speaking to? And he was a very happy man, no doubt, last Friday evening. Yeah.
Just one other thing, please, before we get off the St. Paul's thing, and I talk about them in the show on a regular basis. The Eastwoods, they're part of the whole setup down there. But the 2 brothers were playing in the final on Friday night in Newry, and the third brother, called by the name of Charlie, do you know where he was on Sunday, boys? I give you a guess where he was on Sunday now. They're a very sporting family, these boys. Well, the third brother won the Le Mans 24-hour race for the first Northern Irish man ever to win it on Sunday. So the Eastwoods are flying in all types of sports, and credit to them, you know what I mean, Charles? It's nice to know them wee things about them, and it's great to hear that. Like, it's an iconic thing, the Le Mans 24-hour, and to have a man winning it from Northern Ireland's credit to them, and the whole Eastwood family in general.
I thought, Jarlath, I was the only one that could get snippets like that, but I don't know where Paul found that one from.
I heard he sent me that one down.
Patsy, he couldn't wait to get that out because he was sitting on that because he knew he wouldn't have a notion about that one. Do you know what I mean? Right. But here, tell me this, lads. Between the 2 of you now, you've seen quite a bit of junior championship over this past 5 weeks. Give us your highlight. Give us your highlight of the junior championship. Our standout moment.
Hold on, you can hear them all right, Paul, can you?
Yeah.
My standout moment, I think, was St. Paul's victory over Drummond, Jarlath. 110 to 1-5, as we said at the top of we talked about 3-4 weeks ago. We didn't think Drummond would be beating that championship, and that has to be the standout moment for me. That victory St. Paul's got over Drummond.
Patsy, I'm going to stop you there because we actually have St. Paul's man on the phone, Paul Collins. Hey, Paul, this is Jarlath here.
Jarlath, how are you?
Not too bad. First of all, heartiest congratulations on what happened last weekend. We were just talking about it here and singing the praises of the whole club. But I'll let Patsy talk to you and then Paul.
Good man, Paul. Many
okay,
congratulations. 41 years is a long time, Paul, and I'm sure you must be delighted.
No.
I said there earlier in the show, if you keep knocking at the door will eventually open, and it certainly is open for St. Paul's.
That's correct, Patsy. Apologies, I'm actually driving here at the moment, so you might lose me. But 41 years, you couldn't beat it. Fantastic night. And to see the support that was there, Patsy, on the night in Newry, in a great atmosphere. And all the club members, committee members, elder gents from going back years, ex-senior players. There was tears in a lot of people's eyes there on Friday night. Brilliant.
Yeah, a bit of an emotional roller coaster for you, Paul. And we were talking there. Jarlath asked me what was the highlight of the junior championship, and I suppose it was your victory in the semi-final over a very fancy Drummond side, Paul, 110 to 1-5.
Yeah. I actually said that last Thursday night. That was a big game for us to win, and it was a good game, good tough game for us going into the final. And I think we benefit from that. In fairness to Drummond, they were very tough, and that stood to us on Friday night.
Yeah, well, my colleague here, Paul Rooney, has he's talked us up the whole championship, so I'm going to hand him over to you now.
I know he has.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. And I'm glad you're on. I'm glad to talk to you. And I never got talking to you in podcast on Friday night with the whole emotion of it all, but I enjoyed every minute of it. And Patsy was talking about his highlight moment of the championship, and my highlight moment of the championship was I was at the bottom goals whenever the big lad stuck the goal in to win it for you, and that's the time. And that was my highlight of the championship. And I'd say it was a pretty good highlight for yourself as well.
Fantastic goal. It was getting to a very crucial stage there. We were lucky with Daniel Eastwood's pint for the equaliser to go into injury time was fantastic. That was it. The team, they made it exciting on the night. You know, we missed a couple of frees. We left it down to the last minute. It was exciting finish into extra time, and then Grimley's goal at the end just finished it off. It was a fantastic night, Paul.
Yeah, and you have a great team, a backroom team. We interviewed Pather at half time on the pitch, and he's very enthusiastic about it all, Paul, and he enjoys every minute of it, and he seemed to have great joy and pleasure. It was a tear in his eye at the end as well.
I'm sure there was. I was talking to Pather after it as well. He couldn't get the words out of it, but this is what's been going on in the club since this management team have taken over. And you saw it proved on Friday night that it's a team effort. We've had some brilliant players over the years throughout the club, and the team is more important. 1 to 15, 1 to 20, whatever it is, whoever comes on that pitch has a role to play, and they know what they have to do. And it's drummed into them every night, Monday and Wednesday, training on the pitch by the management team, and that's including Paddy Hannigan, who has done a great job and brought the belief to the players going into these matches, tough matches, which we've always, over the years, like as I said to you on Thursday night, there was 10 semi-finals. Like over the years, we just broke down at the final hurdle. But the boys have the belief. That team had the belief on Friday night.
Yeah, you've learned how to break that hurdle now. You'll be enjoying coming back to Parkester next year to maybe playing an intermediate championship, Paul. And I enjoyed every minute of you. I look forward to seeing you coming up among the big boys. And I'm hearing there's plenty of youth and plenty to look forward to.
Plenty to look forward to. And I have to say that the TV highlights us, but I've actually watched the match 3 times myself since. So, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Great for the area.
I bet you the August Finn manager hasn't watched it 3 times.
No, they're a great team, Paul. They're a great team, Oculus, the Finn, and they were very gracious in defeat. Fair play to them. You'd have to feel for them their second year, like it's
Paul,
not easy.
You're back with Jarlath here, and we'll wrap up. So listen, once again, heartiest congratulations to everybody involved with St. Paul's. You paint a lovely picture there of the emotions that victory last Friday night unleashed. And I mean, like any club can relate to that the men that done the heavy lifting and done the toil over the years to get to this moment. I mean, like it really is history making in so many ways, and it's now in the record that the 2020 junior champions within Down or St. Paul's G.A.A. So well done, and we look forward to seeing you in the intermediate, and your brand of football coming at us again next year. All the best, Paul.
Brilliant, Jarlath. Thank you very much.
Love
Talk
Paul.
again.
Thank you. Bye. There you are, lads. That's what it means, isn't it? It's a big thing. I'm thinking of people like Donald Graham even and Michael Monaghan, and do you know what I mean? It's
well, you know,
who've longed for days like that.
Yeah, they had St. Paul's are great participants in scoring down Jarlath, and you know, the great instrumental group got to the won down titles in the past, got to Ulster finals and what have you. But as I say, it's great to see the footballers eventually making the breakthrough, and heartiest congratulations. But as we always say, there's two sides in this game, and we can't forget about Ben. They put a lot of effort in, you know. Don't cross the manager. He'd be deeply disappointed. But championship football, it's all on the day. You know, we talked earlier in the show about the chances that both teams missed. And, you know, I think there's a lot of nerves in players in championship finals. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, the chances that they missed, they'll probably score them. But that bit of added pressure, Jarlath, and that's what it's all about. It's who can cope with the pressure the best. So fair play to St. Paul's. Goals win games. They got 2 of them, and that was the difference at the end.
Yeah. All right. Is happy enough to move on then till intermediate?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Paul, we'll start with you. So since Saul 310, Drumgath 14 points. Now, it's not maybe... It's probably unfair to say that we didn't see Saul coming earlier in the season, but I think it's fair to say we were distracted certainly by Leitrim and Anaclone, and Shamrocks had been talked about as well. But that's an incredible run of Saul, and you know, the management team there, including a number of my own clubmen, Ryan O'Gorman and John Fagan. You know, there are some of the parts, and Eddie Harney must be absolutely thrilled to get this over the line. But it's been an incredible year for them, and topped off by a very, very convincing win, Paul.
It has been brilliant for them, Jarlath. And like we did mention like that they were. I did say they're a common team in the county, but I didn't see them winning the intermediate championship. And we did talk up Leitrim when we talked up Shamrocks, and we mentioned Enrique, and like you'll also talk about Drumgath as well. Drumgath hadn't been mentioned by many apart from myself in the whole run of things as well. And like some run for Saul, I can tell you. And I see a wee tidbit there from Niall Mackay. Ronan McCartan, he was the mascot for Ballymartin when they won the intermediate championship in 1993. And he managed Saul in 2020 till an intermediate title. Some going, and he wears his heart in his sleeve, and he's enthusiastic, and he loves Saul, and he loves everything, and like deserved it on the day. Probably goals win games, and like in the first half, if we look at the game and discuss the game, we're here to do that, Jarlath. And like in the first half, I'm sure they wouldn't be annoyed at me saying Drumgath were much better team, and I say that without any interpretation. Like take the 2 goals out of it. One was an absolute howler on behalf of the Drumgath keeper. Felt sorry for the lad, and the other was like it was 2 goals that they could have avoided, and they would have been in at half time 9 points to 3 up, Jarlath. Only for them 2 jukey goals, and let's be honest about it. It failed for Saul sort of in the first half, and they come on again the second half and started from the left off them, yes. But Saul got into it, and they got going, and they got moving, and they got more goals, and they got their key players on the ball, Kieran Harney's and Rory Wahers, and the like of these boys, and you know, Cahill Arnold, and got them on the ball and got the thing moving, and probably ended up winning by 5 or 6 points. Not really a true reflection on the game, but you have to credit them gas too. And I was talking to Jackie Lynch early in the year, and he says that he had been hoping to get this Drumgath team to an intermediate final, and he seen Saul and Leitrim as probably the 2 teams that would be there, and he wasn't far wrong, Jarlath. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Like you have to credit Drumgath too, and the run and they come on saying to everybody apart from myself. But at the end of the day, Saul had a wee bit more experience. They're at the top table, or the middle table, a bit longer than Drumgath are, Jarlath. And I say it again, Drumgath are a common team as well, and a couple of great young players among them, and you'll all find that when we do our junior and intermediate team later on, how well we think of these players. But credit both teams and credit Stall with a win at the end of it. It was a very emotional speech by the captain at the end of it, and Cahalorn getting man of the match. And they had a roller coaster of a year, and it was flash bang wallop, and dealt with it all. They dealt with everything coming at them. They scraped over the line again, Shamrocks, and they done what they had to do. You know what I mean? They were in the final on merit, Jarlath. They won it. They were the first title. I think Patsy know these facts better than me, but 64 years they're saying from the won anything. And like for the like Eddie Harney, and he's a family involved there, and you see a photograph there, him and the wife and the boys, and like it's a lifelong ambition for that man. He's about that club day and night, noon and morning, and he breathes that club. You know what I mean, Jonathan? For the likes of him, and for Ronan, and for John Fagan too, and you mentioned the Ryan O'Gorman, great lads, a great season for them, and credit to Jonathan. And I have to again give credit to Gas too. It was probably the best final out of the three, Jarlath, if you're talking football wise. So heads up, everybody, and well done, Saul. That's all I have to say, Jarlath.
All right, Paul, and that's a very nice roundup. But Patsy, what have you to add to that?
Well, I had the honour of being asked to commentate on that match, Jarlath, and I tell you what, I commentated on many, many finals over the years, and that was the most emotional final ever I've commentated on. And tell you the truth, the tears were tripping me near the end, and I thought at one time I was going to have to get my colleague Daisy Candy to take over. What a save emotion! But you know, there's two teams takes the final, and Paul's right. Drumgath got off to a brilliant start. They were 5-1 up, and Saul weren't at the races whatsoever. You know, but you know, Larkin Harney, he scored a peach of a goal, like, and as Paul says, fair enough, the Drumgath goalkeeper a poor kick out and Rory hard at the second one, but Drumgath had 10 points in that first half, Saul at 2-4. Now, the losing of that game was in the third quarter for Drumgath. They kicked on team wides. I actually felt sorry for them. You know, I didn't say it in commentary, but you know, there's so many chances, and when they look back at this, they mightn't have looked at it yet. But and then in the third quarter, the third goal come from Pierce Laverty, who to me had a horse of a game. What a player, you know. And Paul talked about the three Harneys there. Eddie Harney must have been one of the proudest Saul men in the field, you know. The likes of Martin Fitzsimmons, Columba Fitzsimmons, John McGrath, all these people, and there's a lot of people that have went to their eternal home, and they were doing this for two people, you know, Niall and Sonia there, and some great deals in the past. Phil Stratton, Peter Craig, to name a few, you know. But Rory Mullen, what a speech. You know, I've heard a lot of speeches in the time, but the speech that man made, you know, clubs should take a look at that. And it was just an honour to be commentating on it. And I think there's a lot of Saul people out in America. You've seen the shots there, Cappell put up. The Saul flag flew on top of St. Patrick, and I said, "Hail glory St. Patrick." I'm sure got a few viewers last Sunday night, and we had Grania, Laverty, Lynch singing the national anthem before it started. It would have took tears out of
Did you get that paint in the barn yet, Patsy?
Sorry?
Did you get that? Did you get that paint was left in the barn for you?
No, but there's a certain gentleman who he's actually going to take me down to the barn for a meal in the not too distant future. So
right.
There might be a time there from him, but it was an honour to do it, and credit to them. Paul said 64, it was actually 56 years. The last one, the junior, in 64, I think they beat tomorrow, Jarlath. But you're right, this team came through, they won their 4 games in this championship, and they beat 3, you know, Ballymart in the first round, Shamrocks, then the Fontenoys, who I thought probably would have won it, and then in the final against Drumgath, you know. But we talked last week in the show when you weren't here, Jarlath, and I had said, you know, a team that can score goals. They scored 5 against Leitrim, and it proved to be the winning of the game. They got 3 on Sunday, and as I say, they went over to their supporters after it, and I'm sure there wasn't a dry eye in the house. You know, credit to all, and it's hard to believe they're going to be playing in Morgan Field's Down Senior Championship next year. And I'll tell you what, no one will want to play that Saul team because they're young. They have a bit of experience there as well. You know, the Cathal Ireland, you know, what a game he had in the middle of the field. and young Kieran Harney at centre half. But Pierce second yellow card, a bit unfortunate to get the line. You know, I'm sure Paddy Talley will, but there we see, I think John McGrath there with his son, and what a nice photograph there. And we talked about Ronan McCartan, you're right. Ballymartin won that in 1993. I interviewed Gregory after, and there was this wee man standing beside Gregory. It was Ronan, and he was the mascot. And we talked about our friend there, John Fagan. Fair play to John too. You know, Philip Kinsella, Ryan O'Gorman. I hope I haven't left anybody out there. That's all management team. But you know, the pride of the county, and as Paul says, it probably was the best footballing game of the three. No disrespect to Kilcoo and St Paul's and that, but the best footballing game, I would say, because it was close. But you have to feel for Drumgath. You know, the kick, I don't know many ways, it must have been 12 or 13. But we all talk about championships, don't come round that often, and you know, you have to take your chances when they come. And what about Rory O'Hare, a big target man in there, a giant of a man, and as I say, fair play to Saul, and good luck to them in the future. And as I say, Drumgath, some good young players, they'll be back again, so they will.
Patsy, again, that's a lovely summary, and I'm only after seeing a message flash up there from Matthew Morgan, who says Patsy's commentary would make any man's day. So I don't think there's any higher compliment a commentator can be paid than that. You touched on it there, lads, about sometimes if a person is connected or is a member of the club that is used to a diet and is raised on a diet of success, maybe these things, you know, the importance of the event can be somewhat diluted the more you win. And here we've talked about two teams who, you know, Saul and St Paul's, who have went through generations without seeing days like they did last weekend. And you think about it there, Patsy, you talked about in Saul's case, I think it was 54 years. So there's grandparents in Saul that haven't seen silverware come to their senior team since they themselves were children. And I think that just about sums us up as an organisation, how important these events are. Patsy, you touched on it. Championship wins, they don't come round too often for the vast majority of clubs. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's true, Jarlath. You know, there's players who have won All-Ireland senior medals with Down and never won a Down championship medal, you know. So, as you say, you know, the club is first and foremost. You know what I mean? If there was no club, there wouldn't be county teams. So, you know, that club has got that special bond, you know, and it knits everybody together. And as I say, you know, the G.A.A., where would we be without it, Jarlath? You know, it would be a very lonely place, I think, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen, before we move on then, lads, the highlight of your intermediate championship. Paul, we'll go with you first.
The highlight of the intermediate championship for me,
the standout moment, Paul.
Standout moment. Well, there's a couple of standout moments for me. There was a goal with young Damien McKeown, probably one of the best goals ever you've seen in the championship for the Shamrocks on their run till it. You had suppose the standout moment is the Saul winning the final for me. You know what I mean? Like as you say, we overlooked them here and there, and I like what you said there too, Jarlath, about grandparents and Saul never played football and never got these titles, and brilliant for them. But the highlight for me would be seeing Eddie Harney and his family on the field after that win the odd day, and like to see that and the elation in their faces, Jarlath. That's what it's all about. And like I'd have to say, on the Drumgath perspective, before you get off it, you'd love to see Jackie staying there and going again and playing with them boys again. But you never know what happens, and the season's over for them, and hopefully it'll all regroup. But my standout moment would be probably seeing Eddie on the field after that win, and the emotion and the elation that he showed, and the whole thing, you know, surrounding Saul, Jarlath.
And do you see that point you're making there, Paul, specifically about Eddie and his family? And it captured in that moment. Unless you're a Gael, you'll not get that. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's
do you know?
Right. And I
mean, the picture tells 1,000 stories, doesn't it?
And Patsy mentioned a couple of men there too, Columba and Martin Fitzsimons,
Yeah.
great men over there and deserve a mention. And like they stand at that gate, Jarlath, for day and for night and do everything for down G.A.A. And for them boys up the cups and they've been in their house before now, and I'm glad for them and delighted for Saul and Janet.
Yeah, well, Patsy touched on it there a few minutes ago that, you know, there's men in our county have won All Irelands, but I've never seen club success. And I certainly, you know, it brought back memories for me because I remember 91 and, you know, the square in Rostrevor on the Monday night. But you see the 98 club championship win and the square on the Sunday night.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was absolutely on a par with what happened 7 years previously. Go ahead, Pat.
I remember winning the Reserve Championship title playing alongside Big Tom O'Hare. So there you are. So them championship titles, no matter what grade they are, how they're won, where they're won, you'll never forget. And it was in Rostrevor too, the played, believe it or not.
Yeah, you're talking there about that 98 final, Charlotte. Mayo Bridge, I think, maybe took Rostrevor a wee bit for granted that day. And it had been the Bridge's first final in modern era. And let's say a Lloyd Power goal in that second half. They went on to win the game, I think, by 2 points, you know. But, you know, you remember them days, you know. I remember interviewing we Jimmy McCartan that day, you know, a man you know well, we Jim, and talk about a lad that was so proud, you know. Eventually he'd been playing quite a while for Rostrevor and he eventually got his championship medal. But just getting back, you were asking Paul there, your highlights of that intermediate corridor Lords championship. There's actually two of them. It's to do with the one person, believe it or not, and it's a man called Rory Mullen. The goal after, I don't know, was it 19 or 20 seconds against Leitrim, and that speech, Rory Mullen's will live long in my memory, and I'm sure it will live long in every soul person's memory that's seen that or was there on the day. So them's my two outstanding memories, Jarlath, and both provided by Rory Mullen.
And you know, Patsy, just when you say that, like, isn't it nice that, you know, the technology is there now? That's archived now forever and a day. Do you know what I mean? It'll not be a story handed down to the generations. It's actually there that you can play.
Well, I'm sure our good friend DMC Productions probably the videos made of that, or DVD rather, and say it would be a nice thing for posterity, because, you know, I've seen me doing matches in the past and maybe people coming, I might have got a copy of it and then looking for it 20 years later, maybe someone very close to them passed away. And a lot of teams, Jarlath, as you know, they were involved in championship finals and maybe never got the thing videoed or the memories in their head. But when you have it on camera, you know it's great. And you were talking there about Dara, you know, a man who's put so much effort into this championship, and our streaming friends there from Cork, and as I said, down G.A.A. You have to take the hat off to them all, Jarlath. It's been a wonderful championship this year. And as I say, it all took place 38 days. That's how long this championship lasted. We still have the hurling final to look forward to next Saturday, but 38 days, the whole football, 4 championships completed. Fair play to down G.A.A.
Yeah. Right. Listen, and just to remind viewers that after we talk about the senior final, we will be coming back to you, Paul, because you're going to give us a compilation of your it's combined team between junior and intermediate, isn't that correct?
Intermediate, yeah. Right, everybody look out for this team now. It'll be a sharp team now, Jarlath.
We'll be coming back to that now shortly. So moving on then, Patsy, to the senior championship final. I don't wish to be unfair on Carrie Duff. They had a simply incredible run and another fairy tale story. Unfortunately, it hadn't got the fairy tale ending for them. But has it went as that final sort of went as neutrals, pundits, so on and so forth would have predicted?
Yeah, probably did, Jarlath. But you have to remember here that that first half in particular, you know, they were level after, what was it, 23 minutes at 3 points each. and Kilcoo went 5-3 up. And I think it was the 28th minute, young Ryan Beattie in on goal, and he blasted it and it went over the bar. Small margin. They missed 3 or 4 frees in that first half, but the damage was done, Jarlath, in the third quarter. 7-4 at the short whistle. Kilcoo outscored Kerryduff 8-3 in that third quarter. But a big blow to Kerryduff was the loss of James Guinness, who couldn't field. He got injured in the semi-final against Ballyholden, and that was a big blow to Kerryduff. But this is a young side, Jarlath. It's a learning curve for them. We talked about you have to lose one to win one. Kerryduff, and fair play to Kilcoo. Kilcoo treated Kerryduff with utmost respect, and there wasn't one bad tackle in that match, Jarlath. You see, the best of this is these two teams had never really met before at senior level, maybe in Division 2 and 3, 20 odd years ago. But Kerryduff, they've been up into this first division and they'd never met in the senior championship. So either side was probably looking at videos or clips or whatever on each other. So, but there was some outstanding performance in that game. Kilcoo, Paul Devlin, man of the match. A lot of people were writing that man off 2 or 3 games ago in this championship, and he took off a brilliant block to deny Kerryduff a goal in the second half. The 3 snips of goals in that second half too, sort of half chances. Paul covered a lot of ground. Young Eugene Brannigan too, Sheila Johnson. Jerome had a bit of a quiet day. Connor Cassidy was the man that thrusted the mark, Jerome, but Jerome, as you know, can turn a game in a flash. But as I say, Kilcoo wanted to win that title again, and I suppose they come through the back door this time. Losing to Warren Point really spurred them on, but credit to Kerryduff. They can hold their heads up high. DJ Morgan and Patrick and that have done a great job with them, and they'll be a force to be reckoned with next year. I would love to see, if this COVID goes away, Jarlath, a full league campaign. Usually, when we come to championship time and down, there's 8 or 9 league fixtures have been played. This year, what was it, 2 or 3? So as I say, hopefully things will get back to normal next year. But I'm delighted that we've had these championships, and I'm sure a lot of people at home are too, because at March time, our president association came on RTE and on the Sunday game and said he didn't think a ball would be kicked this year. So to have this championship at all is a blessing. But credit to Kilcoo, commiseration to Kerryduff. They really tried hard.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and my take on it, Jarlath, would be maybe slightly different than Patsy. Like, Kerryduff, brilliant revelation in the whole championship, but the run up against one of the best teams in the minute in down football that there's been in down football for a while, Jarlath, and that's no understatement for me. And I've watched them, and Warren Point will have to look at themselves and think about it all again now, and all the clubs in down will have to do the same. How are they going to approach, and even to think about you taking on these lads here? Because again, on every match this year, apart from the Warren Point defeat, like every match this year, I've come on this show a few days later and I've been mentioning some player that has stood out. And this week, everybody doesn't read the game the way I do, Jarlath, but the man that stood out in the field for me this week, and I spoke to him on the way out after the match, was Niall McAvoy. Believe it or not, I'd say he's one of the ones, Jarlath, that has the 9 medals. There's a few of them as 9 medals now, and he could be one of them ones. I don't know if he missed 1 or 2, but he's a lot of medals, that lad. And he played the odd. He's usually a man marker type player, as you know, Jarlath. You've seen him this years. He's a Cleggy type man marker that would stick to you. But he was given the role the odd day, a sweeper, and he played it with a plume, and he was covered everything, and any loose ball he got it up. And like, again, we're talking about Ryan McAvoy in defence. He was class. Kerryduff have nothing to hold their head in shame, and James Guinness was a massive miss to him. But I seen this here from I seen Kilcoo after the Warren Point match and knew there was nobody in down fit for them this year. And I tell you what, it could be a couple of years or maybe 3 or 4 years before there's somebody fit for them, Jarlath. They're getting bigger, they're getting better, they're getting stronger. They're starting to play a nice brand of football. Nothing negative about them. They're all attackers, they're all defenders, even as far as the goalkeeper. I'll tell you what, they have it well worked out. Mickey Moran, you have to give him credit that he has moved them on from being a good team to a better team. So you have to give them credit, Jarlath. You have to give the whole team credit, the setup credit, everything about them, the way they approached the game. And fair play to Carryduff with great crack with DJ and young Dockley and all along. Great crack with the Kilgoo boys as well. But they met a team the other day that is streets ahead of everybody in this county, Jarlath, and that's no understatement. That's the big statement from me. And I tell you what, I stand by that. And next year in the championship, we'll all have to sit and figure out how we're going to approach these boys, because they're getting bigger and better, Jarlath. And again, credit Carryduff, the brilliant run to the final. The excitement was amazing. Everything about them was amazing. They've got used to the feel of Park Air. They will be back, no doubt. But the Kilgoo Giants still there, Jarlath, and I tell you what, it's going to be there for a few years yet.
Yeah. I suppose in a lot of ways it's unfortunate that their championship concludes at this point. It doesn't carry on, because I definitely, Paul, would agree with your sentiments that, you know, they found another level in the past year, 18 months. Outstanding. Even their critics would have to concede they're in a league of their own when they really go at it and put their foot on the gas. And a joy to watch. I have to say they are a joy to watch. Patsy, you touched on it there. Very little cynicism or clinical fouling or whatever the case may be. They just get up and get on with it. The whole team can transfer from defence to attack, and it's, you know, it's from 1 through to 15. Every man knows his role. I personally, I seen there in a couple of games that I've seen them, used to see anything within the 45-meter line, anything within the 50-meter zone is they regard as their scoring zone, their killing zone, you know. And how many teams can say that? Not very few. Very few.
They had 8 different scores that night to Carryduff's 3, I suppose, Jarlath, you know. So
right. Well, listen, Patsy, I'm going to call across you there, and I'm going to let Paul Rooney take this, because with DJ Morgan on the phone. DJ, you're welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Jarlath. Great to be talking to you.
Yes, had an incredible run. Just come up a wee bit short last weekend, but I have to tell you, DJ, heartiest congratulations to everybody in the club. This day, I mean, like, you know, for you to start to now dine out at the top table, it's been a long time coming, but I think we're all in agreement here. You are now going to swing the elbows and make sure you are there for a fairly lengthy period to come. But I'm going to let Paul Rooney talk to you here, DJ.
No bother.
DJ, thanks for coming on, and delighted. I was speaking to you on the way out the gate after the match Saturday, and we've been speaking plenty over the championship. And like you were, as we said there just before you come on, you've met a different animal. Kilgoo have moved to a different level this year, and we're going to all have to think about them, and like they're going to be hard to deal with for the next few years.
Well, I think
DJ,
with Kilgoo, if you look at it, Paul, I think you're going to find they've played more senior championship finals than we've played Division 1 games, so it was a wee bit tough for us. Like,
yeah, it was tough for you. And you said a big miss. James Guinness young Guinness was a massive miss for you coming in, and he didn't get over the injury. DJ, he just couldn't get him fit.
No, we went to physio Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just, like, I have to say, the fellow was in tears, ringing me on Thursday night, telling me that he wasn't going to make it, and I was hugely disappointed for him as well. Like, so really, really sad.
Yeah, and the wee goal chances had just before half time, DJ, it didn't fall for you, and from that on, it sort of went away from you. But you'll be back, and hopefully we'll see you there in Park Esther in the near future again.
Well, I would say if Ronan Beattie watches it now, he'll see Joe Tunney coming to his right-hand side, and he might slip it, but that's about 3 days too late for us. But
well, DJ,
Patsy's on here. Patsy made one of the DJ.
How you doing, Patsy? Great to talk to you.
Well, DJ, I took a wee slightly different view than Paul, because you were level 3 times in that first half, and let's say at 5-3, the goal chance came. You kicked a few wides, but that was nerves, DJ. Obviously, as you say, it's your first final. you know, a lot of guys, no matter what, no matter who anyone is playing in the final, there's that certain amount of nerves. I'm sure you and your management team tried to take the nerves out of them, but I think you need nerves when you're playing in a high game like that, don't you?
Well, nerves, it's all how you use the nerves, Patsy. You know, sometimes they work in your favour, sometimes they work against you. And it's sort of decision making with composure that we needed. And just was snatched at, Josh snatched at his opportunity and Ronan missed his. But it's just, it was unfortunate if we had to put the goal in. It was that wee period of 3 or 4 minutes that we were on top and it just didn't happen. But Kilcoo were superb. No, their power, their pace, everything was great. Like,
I suppose, DJ, the third quarter is the marching time, as they say, and they outscored you in that period 8 points to 3. But they only scored another point in the last 15 minutes. You know, I suppose they took the foot off the pedal. But I have to say, you know, and I'm sure you would agree with this, it was a very sporting final, DJ. You know, Kilcoo give you the utmost respect, and I'm sure you treated them with the same utmost respect.
definitely, like I couldn't say a word against them. Conor Laverty, great words to say about us in the presentation. They were really, really nice about us. And I think what the thought was that we went in hard, they went in hard, and we picked each other up and got on with it, which was nice to see. But we have to learn. We have to learn quick and hopefully get back as soon as we can. But Carryduff, as a village town, was buzzing. The application for new members has increased due to the senior. So it's been very, very good. Like,
I suppose, DJ, too, you're a senior chairman, and he was shaking hands with a whole lot of the Kilcoo players after. A lovely man. We've had him on the show a couple of times now, Paul McConville, and you know, you're a young side, and if you stay with it and work at it, success will come. We talked earlier in the show there about Bright appearing in 6 finals before they won their 7th one. So if you keep knocking at that door, eventually it will open, DJ.
well, hopefully, Pat, it doesn't take us that long to do that now. I would definitely be very, very great at that stage. Like,
well, I suppose, DJ, where me and Jarlath and Paul were talking there, you know, if you get next year, and hopefully this COVID will stand stead, if you get next year maybe 8 or 9 games under your belt, like as you say there, you only had 2 or 3 games, league games before come the championship. But the championship was run over 38 days, DJ, and I'm sure you were very impressed with the Down County Board, the way they run off this championship.
no, a big thanks to the Down County Board for running it and keeping it going, and it kept moving. And a big thank you to Park TV as well. I thought Park TV has brought a lot of Down club players into people's homes that they've heard about, read about in the paper, but never seen. And it was a great success. And the likes of yourselves and Destination Uri, this every week. And it's been great. Like, I thought it's brought a new buzz to the championship. And thanks very much, lads.
Thank you, DJ.
All right, DJ. So we'll wrap it up with
DJ,
that. So,
great to hear from you, and enjoyed everything.
No problem, lads. Thank you very much for everything. Enjoyed my time.
Bye-bye.
All right, good luck. Bye-bye. Bye.
So there you go, lads. So listen, before then, Paul, we revert back to the team of the year. Standout moments from the senior championship. Paul Rooney.
Couple of moments for me, Jarlath, and the first one was the point taking Kilcoo in that first game, and it was a standout moment in the championship, and it was a standout moment in the Kilcoo players' situation as well. It turned them into a different animal, and for me, the point didn't move on from it. Kilcoo didn't move on from it. That was my standout moment in the championship, and credit to Warren Point and these teams for giving us the head in the championship, but the standout moment was the point beating Kilcoo in the early rounds, Jarlath.
Okay. What about yourself, Patsy?
Well, there's 2. The Brainsford turnaround against Clonduff was brilliant. 9 points down, 15 minutes into the second half. And another one was the goal that Jerome Johnson scored against St Mary's Bourne. I think the ball hit the net about 120 miles an hour, Jarlath. So I would love to have a measure and implement on that shot. I can tell you, it hit the net some speed, so they're just two. Jarlath, I could give you 50 highlights in that championship, but just before we go off that, Jarlath, and I've said it in the show before, I have to praise all the coaches and managers of all the teams over all the championships and how well the football has been this year. We've seen a lot of defensive stuff in the past, and coaches, in my opinion, for what it's worth, are trying to come away from that. We have Dublin and Kerry there playing some nice, attractive football. And I think a lot of the clubs in our own county here are trying to do that as well. So I think the future in the garden is rosy for down G.A.A.
Yeah, well, listen, I think we're all in agreement that specifically relation to senior, Kilcoo are very worthy champions and will be there for a while yet. From what we've seen, Kerry Duff have now forced their way to the top, and I mean they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming years. And I'm just sitting thinking here, we often thought and wondered, well, I certainly did over the years, about the breakthrough would ever come from the so-called Greater Belfast teams. And here we are talking about 3 championship finals, and 2 such teams have contested those finals in Kerry Duff and St. Paul's. So it's great for the county. It's been a wonderful championship, Patsy, as we've all alluded to here, and there's been some very exciting games. And TJ talked about the coverage, or the media coverage, and I want to take this opportunity myself to thank yourself, Patsy, and Paul Rooney there for what you've brought to the table there with Darren McCoy and Park TV. I thought our coverage was absolutely outstanding, because I was in homes watching the football on big screen TVs, and I actually was down in the pub watching a few games as well, and it was as good as you would get at 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon on channel 401 on Sky. So everybody knows what that is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I want to congratulate you 2 men, because your knowledge and your know-how and your enthusiasm is a joy to listen to. And I would say Cahill would need to get used 2 boys tied down to a contract, or he'd shortly not be able to afford you.
Well, we work
So you can't stay away from them buttons. Go ahead, Patsy.
To say there, we worked with Cahill many times before, and with Dara too. But you're right, a lot of people loved it, and we're very passionate about our G.A.A. And Paul, as you know, a great program maker, and as I say, a good cameraman. I just love the commentary. I've been doing it this next year. It'll be my 40th year if I live to see it, Jarlath. But as I say, it's not just about me. There's the whole, a lot of people commentating. We had our co-commentators. We had the assistants from Paul McGee, as we talked about earlier there, the PR committee, Diarmuid Cahill, DMC, Promotions Ireland, our streaming friends from Cork. There's a whole lot of people involved. And as you say there, the picture quality was excellent. And if I can see a better streaming, I'll put my hand up. I've watched other counties streaming. Maybe they've won maybe 2 cameras, but DMC Productions had 4 cameras, and most Paul will tell you there, 3 on the field, and Paul usually was on the end line. Sometimes he picked the right end line for goals, and sometimes he didn't. But it's been a great experience. Yeah, it's been a great experience, Jarlath, and I'm glad.
Just before I cut across you, I got it right for the Credigan one night in the Mayo Bridge game. Do you remember that one?
That's another highlight. Jarlath. Forgot about that.
But he was at an angle, But here, Patsy, listen, thanks, Paul. Before I let you back in there, it would, of course, be remiss of me till not acknowledge the work that Cahill McCoy and Destination Uri have done. I mean, through this medium, through this platform here, I think by no means would I be claiming to be anything other than an ordinary Joe, but I have really enjoyed working with you two guys, and I've learned a lot myself. But the platform that Dara has provided to be able to bring this show to people on a Wednesday night has been a real eye opener, and it's a wonderful project to be involved in. I hope you would agree with that.
Absolutely. There's a few technical problems I had last week. The computer decided to upload files, and Paul took over for about 15 minutes. And fair play to him. He did a great job. It's not easy, Jarlath, when you're doing a thing live and things can go wrong. Yeah.
Very good. Well,
yeah,
Paul,
Jarlath, before we get into the team, I'm looking at the clock there, and we're at an hour and 6 minutes already. And I thought to myself, we would have the junior, senior, and intermediate read up in about 15 minutes. But that's the way it is for us, Jarlath. But come on here with big plans. And I'd also like to say, I think we added to the whole championship fair this year, and people was looking forward to the Wednesday night banter and to see how the chandeliers went from G.A.A. and stuff like this, and different things with different things that's going on. But we love bringing to the people, and I said it before, and it's sort of my catchphrase in the show. It's just relaxing hour all week for me. We're into an hour and 10 minutes now, and we've still 2 teams to learn. And I'm hearing through the co-producer, maybe the great Stephen Poucher might have something to say as well for a team or two. But me and Patsy's going to have a go at our teams first and see how the management and the county people out there feel about it.
Right. Okay. Listen, I can't help but notice, sir, over your right and left shoulder, you have a big banner up behind you, promoting the county. If you ain't to tell us, no.
No, nothing to tell you at all. No, I just like to promote my good friends, and it's great to have it up. And like the people out there, I think, Jarlath, from what I'm hearing on the ground, and Patsy's hearing on the ground, and we are on the ground, like people's enjoying it. They're loving the bit of crack. They're looking forward to teams tonight, and we're hoping Paddy College and on his backroom team. And before we get into this whole thing here, my team's going to be a selection of junior and intermediate, and Patsy's going to have a selection of senior players, right? If anybody wants to throw in a big bit of sponsorship there, we'll maybe try and get these 2 teams in a playoff and see who has the best pick and who hasn't. You know what I mean? We'd love to do that, Jarlath, and we'd love something like that to happen, but we're going to give them a run anyhow and see how the people out there feel. I'm sure different ones will have different opinions and different ones will say this, but that's what it's all about, Jarlath. That's what the G.A.A. is all about, and we love every minute of it.
Paul,
super team.
I'll tell you,
it's going to take on the world now shortly, Jarlath.
Paul, you stay. You keep the mic there, because we're going to go straight till your combination of junior and intermediate team of the championship. Right now, Patsy, I'm assuming the same as myself, has not had sight of what you're about to announce here. So I think it's unfair to ask Patsy to throw comment in. So Paul, you rattle away there.
You wouldn't have no idea who I'm gonna.
Right. Well, start with number 1 and give us 30 seconds as to why that player has secured that position.
Well, number 1 wasn't that hard to pick. He's young, he's big, he's enthusiastic, he's a brilliant keeper. Jack Hazard from the Saul Club. Great future in front of him, Jarlath, in the G.A.A. if he stays with it. If the soccer doesn't get him away from us. He's been brilliant through the championship. He was a rock in the final, and there was no question about him as goalkeeper in my selection for junior and intermediate team of the season. Now, I'll move on to number 2, Jarlath. And my number 2 is an Saul man, believe it or not. The Saul, I'll be getting a pint in the barn before this is over, Patsy, as well. So my number 2 is an Saul man, a man by the name of Jamie Morgan. And I was very impressed with him through the whole championship. He's slightly out of position in my team, Jarlath. And I'm going to say this here. Anybody has anything to say to my team, I picked this team on my thoughts of their best position and where I would love to play them if I was playing them, Jarlath. And it's my selection of 15 men. And if I was putting them on the field, this is where they'd be going. Jamie Morgan has been brilliant for Saul. He hasn't been spoken about in the glamour of the championship. But I think Patsy may agree with me now that Jamie Morgan has been well worthy of the number 2 spot in the Rooney intermediate junior team of the championship.
Okay, and just to let people know, just before you go to the fullback there, just to let you know, Cahill is indicating here that he's going to get the team and actually put it up as well at the end, so people don't have to be running here to get a pen and paper. This will be put up at the end of the show. Fair enough. So go to your full back then,
Paul. We're going to move full back, and he's been playing a while, and he's been a great club man, and had a brilliant final too, Jarlath, despite being on the losing side. I'm going for number 3, Stephen Parsons from the Drumgaff club. I thought he had a great season. He was phenomenal against Unreact in the earlier rounds. He's been phenomenal for Drumgaff this year, and he's well deserving of that number 3 berth on the junior intermediate team.
Okay.
Number
Paul,
4, Jarlath.
Just before you go on to your left corner, right? The thoughts just come into my head here. This is a nice compliment to these players, and you know, an unexpected end of season compliment for them, which I'm sure a lot of them, when they hear they've been named in this team, they might say, "Oh Jesus, so what would Rooney know?" But I've been inclined to say, "Well, no, Rooney watches a lot of football, so I'm sure this is a this is a nice wee touch."
Rooney was on the ground, Jarlath, and like I envy any manager picking teams, Jarlath, because this wasn't easy. I had different inputs from 3 or 4 different men, and you know the way you need your side team. But we'll go ahead with it anyhow.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Number 4, my number 4 will be another revelation to everybody, and he's a man by the name of G.A.A. from St. Paul's. He had a brilliant championship. He's developing into a great young player, and like I would be hoping, Jarlath, that these boys here would be getting trial towards down at some stage, because I believe, and I'm not saying this out of any malice or any stupidity, these boys deserve it. They've proven through the championship to me, looking at them, they're brilliant. Shea Hockey's been brilliant for St. Paul's. Let anybody tell me, like I'm sure there's a couple of people, but he has to be well in with a good shout for that position, and I'm giving him the number 4 berth on the junior intermediate championship team of the year.
Okay.
Number 5.
Yep.
Number 5, another man that might surprise a few, and I went for Aaron Summers from Drummond. You know, Drummond were red hot favourites for this championship, and Aaron Summers, I think if I'm not mistaken, Aaron Summers had a wee skirmish with the town team before, but you could see that in him, Jarlath. You could see that in him, that there's football in him. He had a great season. For Drummond. They come up short in the semi-final, surprisingly enough, but it wasn't surprising to me. But I had to put a Drummond man. You know, there's a couple of Drummond men were in for the position, but I thought out of them all, Aaron Summers at number 5 would be the best selection, and I'm going with Aaron Summers at number 5.
Okay, right, keep her going.
Well, I'm going to number 6 now, and there'll be a lot of people will be thinking strangely about this one here, but my thoughts on this man, I've seen this man playing football from he's a young man, and any team I ever seen him playing in, they played him as attacking player. But I would love Jarlath, and if I was playing him and managing him, I would love to put this number on his back and let him play there. And the number 6 for me in the junior intermediate team of the championship is Pierce McCricket from Leitrim. I reckon he'd be a brilliant number 6. I reckon he could play that role to a T, and I reckon he'd be fitting for him to go into this team. And like, there's plenty of Leitrim men had plenty of good football during the season, but I'm going with Pierce Oak. I'm going to throw him in at number 6 because that's where I'd love to see him play at Jarlath. And if I was managing him, I'd be trying him at number 6. I think he's great ability, he's great reading of the game, and I think he would be a brilliant number 6. Number 7, Jarlath. Number 7 is an unrake man, believe it or not. I went round the houses, Jarlath, and went everywhere, and I'm going with Declan Doyle. We talked him up on this show. Even in the league, he was phenomenal for Enrique. He was phenomenal through the championship. He's one of the better players in intermediate football and down at the minute, and he deserves the number 7 spot in behind the midfield.
Right. Now, listen.
My number 8.
Tell me this. No, hold on. Don't go to number 8 yet. Patsy, just give us just run your eye over there, Patsy. What them first 7 positions. What do you think of Paul's picks so far, Patsy?
Well, he's got a good mix in there, Jarlath, and Paul would have probably seen a wee bit more junior and intermediate football than I did, because he was with the following the Shamrocks and that there. But it's nice to see a good mix there of junior and intermediate. You know, we'll talk about Declan Doyle there. I talked that lad up earlier on in our programme a few weeks ago. Young G.A.A there from St. Paul's. I watched the match the other night, and as Paul said, he had a real horse of a game. So it's good to see these lads getting a mention. Pierce Oak McCrickard, Pierce Oak, a dual player. He could play literally anywhere on the field. He's a great hurler and a great footballer and a great talent and one for the future.
Okay, well, Paul, there you are. You're getting the endorsement of Patsy anyway for your picks. So go ahead, Paul, with your number 8.
My number 8 is I'm going back to St. Paul's again for number 8. And I tell you what, this man impresses me so much, Jarlath. He's so cool. He's so calculated. He so doesn't put a ball wasted. And whenever St. Paul's needed to score to level that game, he was the man that needed on the ball. He ended up on the ball. And the man I'm going for number 8 is Pat the Geesewood, not because of his final appearance. And I'd have to credit the CCC. He was involved in something in the semi-final, Jarlath. And I'm hearing it was a very, 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 very stupid thing to get sent off. And he get rescinded that. And it was better for the final to have him in it than not to have him in it, Jarlath. He's a brilliant footballer. He plays football with a head up, which is a lot of people don't play with a head up. He plays football with his head up, looking around him, and he sees what's on. And he usually delivers, and he's been brilliant for St. Paul's this year. And he's my number 8, and he's gone in there in the junior intermediate team of the year. Number 9, I'm back to Saul again. Jarlath, for my number 9. A stalwart for them, and a great footballer for them. And I think he got an odd sniff at maybe down as well, and didn't get a full crack of the whip. And I've pitched for Cahill Arnold here, and for strength alone, he's a strong man. He's a forward thinking midfielder, and he'll attack, and he's been brilliant for Saul. And I don't think anybody would have any controversy about that there, 2 men in midfield, Jarlath. From the point of view of the intermediate and junior championship, they're the standout players in the middle for me, and they're well deserving of them 2 slots, and they should be proud to be getting them, because I thought long and I thought hard, and I went through some load of players before I get them 2 men together. And I think as a combination in the middle, Jarlath, they would complement each other so much, and they'd be hard to deal with, I'll tell you that.
Right, Paul. Okay, move on then to your right half.
Number 10, I'm going with Shea Byrne from G.A.A. Young again, very young, very athletic, very young, and very capable of not only his free-taking ability, Jarlath, but his scoring from general play, and his general build-up and play too in the forwards has been phenomenal from G.A.A. all year. He scored, I think, 7 or 8 points again and raked in the early round. He's been phenomenal. He's been chipping in with 4 and 5 and 6 points per game. He's been a big part of them G.A.A. getting to the final. He missed a few frees in the final. He'd be disappointed. He wouldn't be too annoyed with me saying that. He didn't miss from play, but he was brilliant from play, and I think he deserves the number 10 jersey on the intermediate team of the season, junior team of the season.
Okay.
Number 11, Jarlath. Number 11th, I'm going to Auction Finn for number 11. And very deserving player too. And hopefully these boys that I mentioned here, Jarlath, I don't know if Paddy Tally has looked at them or he's thinking about looking at them, but they all played with enough capabilities in this championship this year to deserve at least to get a shot at something. You know what I mean? And I'm going for Adam Garland from the Finn at number 11. He was brilliant, Jarlath. And like he carried the everything the Finn had good about them in the whole championship, and he was part of it. And like he deserves that shot at number 11. It's a fairly central role up there, centre half forward, but I think he'd be well capable of it. Great read of the game and a great man to take a score, Jarlath.
All right, Paul.
Number 12. Okay. Number 12, I'm way back to Saul again for a young man who I've seen him from a young age, and he's impressed me in the down under 21 squads, minor squads. I've seen him playing at all levels, and he's developed into a right lump of lad. Kieran Harney from Saul. He was brilliant for them, Jarlath. He kept the thing alive for them. He brought it in. Patsy mentioned the third quarter there in the game. It was him that brought it to them in the third quarter, and him alone. And he won frees. He fought for balls that he shouldn't have fought for. And like on merit, on everything about him, he deserves to be in the team. And he's been brilliant for Saul. And I'm delighted to have him in there at number 12.
Okay.
Number 13. Number 13, I'm way back to Saul again, believe it or not. Hi. And the paints in Saul for me now, Patsy. There'll be a row of paints for me in Saul now after this, and no barn. But anyhow, they deserve it. And like this, as you said, 56 years. And these boys I mentioned here, I'm going to go with Rory O'Hare, number 13, Jarlath. Big, huge forward and a target man. And like if all else is failing for you, the long ball in on top of Rory O'Hare is an option. And he's not only is he big, he's mobile, he's agile, he has turning ability, he can turn. He's not a big cumbersome lad. He's very fit for the height of him. And like he's big. Like if a few big lads in there, Jarlath mixed with a few wee lads. And I tell you what, Rory O'Hare for anybody to deal with at the corner position out there, I tell you what, he'd be a handful, and he's deserving of it. He scored goals for fun. He scored goals at vital times in the championship for Saul all year, and well deserving of that spot.
Gareth McGreevy's just come in there with a message, Paul, to say that he's opening the tab behind the bar for you, so there's no it's limitless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's great. It's brilliant to hear that they're listening to us, and I love to hear that they're listening to us, and I hope they're enjoying the show. And whenever they see this 15 of mine all laid out, I tell you what, it'll take a brave 15 to beat them. And into number 14 now, I'm going for another man that I talked up all year, and I can't not bring these men into my team after talking them up, Jarlath. It'd be a remiss of me to leave these boys out if I'm talking about them all year on this show, and then when it comes to the vital stage, not only that, because the role they played in the position for their team. And I'm going for Sean Tucker from St. Paul's for the number 14, full forward. Superb for his club. Superb in everything he done in league and championship, Jarlath. At critical times too, he was there to carry them over the line. And like, I've been impressed with him. I don't know if any senior management or other management are watching, but if they are watching and they're not impressed with him, Jarlath, there's something wrong. I'll tell you that now, because he's a standout player in that team. He's a scorer. He can go for goal of its own, but you love in a forward. He's that cheekiness, cockiness about him, which you love in a forward too. And he's well fit to hold it in there with anybody. Sean Tucker's my number 14, St. Paul's.
Okay.
Number 15 and the final one, I'm going to have 6 subs as well. I'll run through them quick. But my number 15, and he sort of didn't make it. He didn't really show us through self in the final, and like his last 2 finals, I suppose he didn't show himself. And we're going for an opposite fin man here, Jarlath, but not simply because he didn't show. He played rightly in the final. He done enough to keep his name up there. But I'm sure he'd be disappointed in his final appearance according to his run all year. And I tell you what, he's fit for any team. He would walk into any team in the county, the same fella. I'm going with Shea Crossgray from Oxford Finn at number 15. The blonde bombshell, I think they call him down there. He's been great for the Finn. He's been great for the championship. He's very, very disappointed, I think, in the final. I've seen from a few tweets from him later on after the championship final. But I have to give it to him. He's deserving of that number 15 jersey. And I tell you what, super footballer. I'm going to run quickly through the subs, Jarlath. And Damien McCune from Shamrocks, for his ability from half-back is unbelievable. And I think he deserves to be in any team. And Patsy mentioned this man earlier, Rory Mullen from Saul. I'm going with James McGivern from Drummond S. I went with Ronan Campbell and Raked. I went with a young man from Newry Mitch's own Flynn, not because of the run Mitch has had in the final, simply on ability and the development that lad has come on in the last few years, Jarlath. He's a super footballer. He would be a footballer in any team. And my last pick for the night is Daniel Eastwood from St. Paul's. I had serious trouble between Daniel and Sean Tucker for that full forward position, but I think I had to go with Sean Tucker because that's the way I leaned all year, Jarlath. And that there is the Paul Rooney junior intermediate team of the Championship 2020. And there will be people that will dispute it. There will be people who will be happy with it. All round, I think it's a fair team, Jarlath. I think it would be a match for any team, senior, intermediate, or junior. And bring it on. If anybody wants to put the big sponsorship down, we'll see if we can get it all together. And if there'll be any good to Patsy's team, we'll see in a wee while. Patsy's going to go with his team shortly. But I'm happy in Jarlath. And I hope all the guys that have picked the hopper And I'm glad to see them on the team, and I enjoyed all the football from them all year.
And Paul, you know, it's you've a good variety there. You're into a number of clubs there. There's 13 of your starting 15 were county finalists this year. But there's one thing that stands out for me there is you have watched a lot of football in the past 5 weeks in particular. And do you know what? It's nice for you to be flagging up standout players who you feel
coming in already, Jarlath.
Well, see, I'm actually
coming up already. No, Shamrock's man, not 15.
There'll be a fatwa out on you boy on the old Warmpoint Road.
No.
Patsy, what's your take on the midfield and forwards on Paul's overall? Did he get the balance right there?
Oh, absolutely, Jarlath. You know, Cahill there in the centre of the field, he got man of the match. We talked about Rory O'Hare. I had great praise for Adam Garland there and Shea Croskery. I seen them in last year's final. Just looking at his subs there, he mentioned a young man there that is actually, he mentioned his name, but he's not in the subs. James Givern there from Drummond S. Rory Mullen has made the subs bench. I think maybe if I had him been picking that team, I might have went for Rory in the middle of the field, but that's just my take. But I have to say overall, Paul, it's a very good side, and there would be a challenge for any senior team.
Okay, all right. Well, he's threw down the gauntlet, so let's see if there's any takers on that one. Patsy, right? Patsy, we're going to move straight till the senior team then.
Yeah. Well, I could have picked 3 senior teams here, Jarlath. And first of all, we'll start off with the goalkeeper. And there was 2 candidates in the running for this. I'll let you know who they are and he's in the subs. But I'm going to go with Mark Hines from Carryduff for the goalkeeping spot against Ballyholden. This man was one of the reasons why Carryduff got to the final. Couple of point blank saves. His kick out distribution excellent. He kept a clean sheet in the championship final. Not too many goalkeepers can say that. So number 1 is Mark Hines from Carryduff.
Okay.
That moves on to the full back line. And number 2, this young man, I call him he's one of my flame-haired lads, let's say. He was taken on Longstone to do a marking job on Conor Dorn, and what a job he did. And I tell you what, he had a good game in the semi-final and the final, and that young man is Larkin Toll of Carryduff, gets the right corner back. The full back line, there was a couple of players in the running for this, but I went with Kilcoo man, Ryan McAvoy. What a young man he is, an example to any young fella playing Gaelic football. He's a lovely lad to speak to. He speaks firmly on the ground. He's a great attacker, never gives a bad pass, and he's a compliment to Paul Devlin as a free taker. He takes them on the left, Paul takes them on the right. So a very worthy recipient, Ryan McAvoy, Kilcoo. On the left, probably a player a lot of people mightn't have heard that much about, but it's a Warren Point man, and I think Paddy Talley will be looking at this young man in the not too distant future, Adam Lynch. Warren Point are disappointed that they went out of the semi-final stage, but they put up some great performances in this championship, and that young man, Adam Lynch, certainly was one of them players. That takes me to my half-back line, and this was possibly the easiest one to pick, these 3 players, Jarlath. I'm going for right half-back, John Boyle. What an inspirational player. We've seen what happened when he came on against Clonduff, and to me, if he hadn't been introduced, I think Clonduff would have won that game. That's the bottom line. He stood up tall to hit a pen. So John Boyle is the right half-back. The centre half-back, a man would grace any county team, never mind any club team. He used to be a forward. I told you, I commentated on him when he scored 5 goals in the first half in an East Down under 12 county final, or under 12 East Down final. and that man is Dabs, Jarlath Brannigan from Kilcoo, the centre half-back. My left half-back, a man that has had an excellent championship. He's a great man at hitting the 45s, and he can hit a free. Never gives a pass wrong, and that is John McGill from Carryduff, my number 7. The middle of the field now, we're going away here from Kilcoo, Warren Point, and Carryduff, and we're going to go with a young man who had a brilliant championship, a great fielder of a ball, and I will be very surprised if Paddy Tally isn't looking at this lad. And he's a nephew of our colleague there, that man, Ross Carr from Clonduff. What a season he had. And, you know, he's one for the future. It's Ross Carr. So my number 8, my first midfielder goes to Ross Carr. The second midfielder, we talked about him on this show. We talked about him up and down, and what a breath of fresh air he was. You know, he hit frees for fun. He hit them off the ground. He's a great fielder of a ball, and he can run with the ball too. And the other midfielder, Charlie Smith from Drogheda Mayo, Charlie Smith, Mayo Bridge. That's my 2 midfielders. So I don't know what Paul thinks of that, or what you think of it so far, Jarlath.
Yeah, well, I was just going to bring Paul in there. Paul, what do you think of those first 9 picks?
Yeah, very good. I'm glad to see young Ross in it, and it's great to see it. And I think he's very deserving of it, Patsy. And young Smith, for the frees alone, Patsy, has to be there. Do you know what I mean? And I agree with young Smith being in there, because like, we have plenty of free takers about the county, but he's been 100% accurate for me all year. Jarlath Brannigan, phenomenal, brilliant season. Now, surprise one, Adam Lynch, but not really that surprising, Patsy. Very good player and very good future. And tell you what, not a bad selection now for your first half, Patsy. And like my wee lock forwards, I said they would have trouble, but they'd probably get through with a lot of scores there, I would say, Patsy.
Yeah, well, that takes us on the half forward line.
Go ahead.
This here, there's going to be one surprise in it probably, but 2 of them probably aren't much of a surprise. The right half forward, Sheila Johnson from Kilcoo. What a season this young man has had. A great runner with the ball, never gives a bad pass, great left peg. As you know, I like left-sided players, Jarlath, and he's one for the future. I've seen him against Mayo Bridge, and I think it was about 5 years ago now, in an under-14 county final. And, you know, he's 2 other brothers, 2 good footballers for Kilcoo, but he's a real shining star, and richly deserved on May 15 anyway. So number 10, Sheila Johnson from Kilcoo. The centre half forward, you know, this is one of the most pivotal positions on a football team, in my opinion. You see this man here, he could play anywhere in the forward line. And to me, he has lifted this championship up to no ends. He can turn the game on a flick of a coin. A young man, Jerome Johnson from Kilcoo, brother of Sheelan. So my centre half forward is Jerome Johnson. Now, number 12 might surprise a few people, but I'm only going what I've seen in this championship. And this man here, again, Loughlin Island, and against Carryduff, he was one of my standout players, created a lot of scores for other players, took off a few great points himself. That man, Mark Walsh from Ballyholme, is my left half forward. And the full forward line, I would say a lot of people in the county might have picked these 3. You know, I'm going corner forward, Stephen McConnell from Clonduff. What a season Stephen's had. And I have to say it now, Jarlath, you know, they were your outside tip at the start of this championship. They played some delightful football in this championship. We cannot get away from that. And Stephen McConnell, as I say, great free taker, popped up with a few goals along the way. So Stephen McConnell, right corner forward. Full forward, we talked about him earlier in the show. He's had a great season. He scored 7 points in the championship final. And that full forward berth goes to Ronan Beatty from Carryduff. And top of the left, I couldn't leave this man of this team. He's one who we're going to be hearing a lot more of in the future. I would say Paddy Tally probably, if he hasn't talked to this man, he will be shortly. His free taken alone, his point taken alone, he scored 30 points in this Morganfields Championship. Top of the left goes to Seamus Loughlin. So that's my 15. I'm going to give you my 6 subs. These guys here, we're all within touching distance in goals. Gary McMahon from Warren Point, super season Gary. It was nip and tuck between him and Mark Hines, but as I say, opted for Mark. But fair play to Gary, you know, he's another man that could be in county duty. Patrick Murdoch at full back is my number 17. What a great season he had. Him and Ryan McAvoy were tussling for that position. There's a few positions to tussle for, so Patrick makes the subs bench. And another young man, Patrick Sheridan from Brainsford. Now, this lad, you know, I've seen him in a couple of games just in the championship, but what an inspiration he was. And one of my sources tell me on his GPS in one game, he covered 9 miles, Jarlath. 9 miles, Patrick Sheridan cover. So he's number 18. Another young man who, in my opinion, was in the running for Man of the Match award in this year's championship final. He scored 3 points in play. That was Eugene Brannigan from Kilcoo. The youngest, I think, of the Brannigan brothers, but a great footballer and another man who has a good future, not only in the black and white at Kilcoo, but the red and black down. And then number 20, I'm going for the Kerry captain, Josh Conroy. What an inspirational player. You know, caught some great balls, scored a great goal, maybe 2 along the way in the championship, and he's one for the future. And then Jarlath, one of your own colleagues. I talked earlier, I was commentating on Rostrevor when they played Kilcoo. He scored 2 of the best points I've seen with different, both feet in Park Esler, and that was your own club man, Sean Power of Rostrevor. So that's my 21, Jarlath. I'm very happy with it. I think I've got it as near as right as possible. Some people will probably be talking up a few other players, but as I say, we only can pick 15 plus our 6 subs. So it'll be interesting to see what people's thoughts are on that team.
Well, I'll tell you, the first thoughts I'm going to get are from Paul Rooney, but I'll tell you something, Patsy, that absolutely hits me between the 2 A's there. There's not, you haven't a born man in that 20, in that 21.
And me, a former born man, George.
So that's what I'm talking about. We talked about the fatwa out on Paul Rooney on the old Warren Point Road. So I think you might go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I'm looking at that team of Patsy's, and there's no born men on it, is right, and there's sort of that's like a tennis game. That's Patsy firing the ball into the born man's court. This time next year, the born men, if they're vanning in them at all, they'll be having a few men in there, and they'll want a few men in there, Jarlath. They need a few men in there, and I'm looking at Patsy's full forward line there. It'll be hard to cope with. Steve McConnell, 215 he got in this year's championship, Jarlath. Young Beatty, 214 he got. And the other man he mentioned, young Seamus Loughlin, 30 points. I tell you what, that's some full forward line. And like, looking at it, fair out team, but my take on it now, and I think I would have been taking a couple of the subs in and a couple of the players out, maybe, you know what I mean, if it was me. But I tell you what, some team, and when we do look at this here, Charles, right, we're thinking back to the down team that we left off with, you know, before we started, and you look at them, there's 42 or 43 lads there we've rattled out to you, and like, how many of them lads, in all honesty, is in this down team? You know what I mean? How many of them is in it? Would there be half of them in it, Jarlath, or you know what I mean? Like, so this championship has showed us one thing: there's loads of players in this county. Loads and loads of players deserving of a shout. Like we've rattled out there, and like as you say, Jarlath, we're not just making this up out of our head. We're not just pulling up fairy stories. We're doing this here because we're on the ground. We're watching them. We're looking there. We're watching them in you know, live, seeing what they're capable of. And I feel Patsy's team too, that has serious, like he mentioned young Walsh there, like a brilliant footballer. And it's been super for Ballyhole this year. And if you look through them all there, Jarlath, I don't know how many of them would be actual down players. I'm sure you're counting at the minute there, but from the last down team we left off to the next down team, there's going to be a massive change in personnel, I think, Jarlath. And I think there has to be a massive change in personnel. Maybe everybody out there wouldn't agree with us. Maybe they don't agree with us. Maybe they have their own opinions on it. But my take on it is, like, there's a serious shift in you know, footballers that we see that's able to bring the game to the, you know, these boys are showing at the top level. They're showing in finals. They're showing stuff that they can do, and the pressure's on them. And that's why we're picking them, Jarlath. And that's why they're there for everybody tonight to see. We're not picking them because maybe they might be good. We're picking them because they were good. They showed us how good they were in the championship. And, like, I would be loving to see that team of mine there lining out and playing anybody. And I tell you what, they would give a game to anybody, including Patsy's senior 21.
Yeah. The thing that's jumped out at me there too is, you know, Patsy, I think that's a very, very impressive pick, but I like the way you have not been afraid to sort of grasp the nettle of looking at it throughout the 5 weeks and throughout the championship, because 8 of your starting 15 were finalists. So, I mean, like, you know, you'd obviously watched plenty of football over the previous 4 weeks before final week. And as Paul says, out of them combined panels of 42 or so players, I mean, like, how many of them in reality have wore the red and black of Down? And this was a shop window for them, Paul. You said they're not there because they're there absolutely on merit of what they have done, and let's hope that the powers that be within the county have noticed that as well, and some of them lads do get their chance going forward. I actually wasn't aware of the combined scoring power there of that full forward line in the seniors, but that's simply an incredible return there.
Well, Jarlath, I've just one more thing to say. I'm going to say now my Morgan Fuels Football of the Year for 2020. He's on that team there, of course, and that is Jerome Johnson from Kilcoo. Absolutely brilliant. He scored 14 in this championship. That goal he scored against St Mary's Bourne. He scored one in the opening round against Rio Bridge in the 20-metre line, and he hit it. He was standing dead still when he hit it, and the carry, he got into that shot as well. So I don't know what, I'm sure Paul will maybe give you his intermediate and junior player of the year, but my senior player of the year is Jerome Johnson from Kilcoo.
Okay, thanks, Patsy.
Well, if you're going to put me in the spot and put me to pick an intermediate junior player of the year, I'm going to go with Kieran Harney. There you are. I'm going to ship with Kieran Harney right at this point as my junior intermediate player of the year, and well deserving of it he would be. And again, Charles, I'll reiterate, the scoring power that at full forward line of Patsy's is phenomenal. 214, 215 and 30 points over a 5-week period for a couple of young fellas is phenomenal. And we're looking forward to seeing them in the red and black, and hopefully in the near future they'll all be lining out.
And see, this is the very thing. I mean, like the fact that the championships now are concluded, and you know the clubs are not preparing for an Ulster campaign. Maybe the red and black can be the direct beneficiaries of that. You know, where club players are willing to give their all to the county if offered the opportunity.
Yeah, I interviewed Paddy Tally at half time in the match the other day, Jarlath, and he's told us that they had just met a couple of weeks now and they were G.A.A. So he hadn't got the finalist players into the squad yet, but they have met. They are G.A.A. We don't know much about the squad, so we can't really give any insight to the people out there. But they're G.A.A. and they've met, and they're looking forward to playing later in a few weeks' time. Hopefully it goes ahead, Jarlath.
Okay. Patsy, you were coming in there.
Yeah, I just want to say, Jarlath, I think, you know, this thing with the club and the county, I think it's been great. You know, the club have got first run on the county. Not that I have every respect for all county teams, but I think maybe it might be a bad idea to split the two. If that is possible, maybe that's not possible. But I think, you know, your club comes first, Jarlath. You have to say that the club, there was no clubs, there was no county. So obviously it's an honour to play wear the red and black for the county. You're probably right. Some of them players there in my starting 15 might have played for Down. Some of them have played minor football, I'm sure. But there's some great prospects there, and we're only going on what there. If we have Jerome there, as I say, my football of the year, I'm sure a lot of people will have their own views on that. But I'm only going what I've seen, and I say I've seen near all the championship matches this year, and I'm happy enough with that 15 on the 6 subs. Them 6, you said there was no Bourne men in it. Obviously, Bourne went out at an earlier stage than they wanted to be, but I suppose you would have blamed Kerr there, Peter and Stephen Fagan would have been in the mix there too if they had advanced to the latter stages. Also Lough Island, we could have talked about Rory Mason, Aaron McClements, at all good championships. But as I say, I'm happy enough with the 15 I've picked, and 6 subs as well. So I'm sure people people have their opinions on that team, and rightly so. It's good to have good discussion as we've had in this show, and I have to say, Jarlath, I've been privileged to have been asked to come on this show, and I've enjoyed yourself and Paul and Cahill there in the background with all these graphics. You can see the way he set them teams out. Now, myself and Paul only sent them I sent mine this evening to Cahill. I think it was 5:30, and he's got that all up there. So credit to him too, And I hope the people at home enjoyed it. I'm no doubt whether County's going to play this year or not. We might come back on to discuss them. You never know. But as Paul says, wouldn't it be great for them 2 teams to meet for some charity or something? I suppose with this current situation with COVID-19, that mightn't be possible, but maybe sometime in the future. And congratulations to all the teams that competed in all the championships. And we won't forget about our hurlers over the water there. We mightn't give them the time that obviously they deserve, but they're flying the flag for us across there in the Ards Peninsula, and not forgetting Breda too, or participated in this year's senior championship as well. As I say, 2:18 each. I watched last Saturday, very close affair, and we wish both hurling teams every success in their replay next Saturday. So there you go, Charlie.
So, Patsy and Paul, the thing about it is when you're picking a team of the championship or a team of the year, if you had 10 pundits picking, they would come up with 10 different teams. So, I mean, the points that you have been making there, it's grounds for optimism. And it's optimism that we all hope that the county can benefit from, because we're in the next couple of weeks now, we'll be parking the club scene and getting behind the county, and hopefully things do stay all right from a health perspective, and we're able to push there for that promotion and head on into a championship in the week before Christmas. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But listen,
we're coming to the wind up.
Yeah,
I think we're coming to the wind-up time again, Jarlath, and we're coming to the end of the show, and we do our wee bit, and Patsy done his wee bit there, and Patsy picked the player of the year there, Jerome Johnson. I'll let the folks know, Jerome Johnson scoring prowess in the championship. You'd never guess 4-14, Jarlath.
Wow! In
the championship over 5 weeks. There's an arm on there stands out a wee bit. We maybe missed him a wee bit. Ross McGarry got 220 in the championship, and Paul Devlin 121. All brilliant achievements from them, but as I say it all along, we're probably on the last show. I don't know, maybe we made up some. We'll not say we're completely winded up yet, Jarlath, but maybe have a follow up again if this down thing is going again. But I have really enjoyed working with yourself. I've enjoyed working with Patsy. I've enjoyed that goal line camera. I enjoyed picking that team, and I was privileged to pick that team and be involved in picking that team. And I would be proud to see them on a field as a team as well. I don't envy managers in their selection process, Jarlath. It's a horrendous job. I must have put my pen through about 20 names at different times and different situations, getting to that final scenario. You know what I mean? I looked over all the championship. Yeah. I've tried my best to do the best we could, but I've really, really enjoyed the show. And fair play to Cahill. He came up with an idea way at the start, and the three of us thought we were going on, maybe, we didn't know what we were going on, but it's took its own legs. It's took its own life to show, Jarlath. It's took its own audience. The people are tuned in. We're on there now an hour and 50 minutes, believe it or not. I thank Cahill for all his work in the background. I thank yourself for your wisdom and knowledge in between times. It's been brilliant. And especially thank Patsy and enjoy, as I said before, my sort of a catchphrase for the show is, it's been the most relaxing hour all week, but it's been an hour and 50 in 8, Jarlath. And I'm looking forward to maybe meeting up with us all again and going again. But we'll see how these teams develop, and we'll hear over the next few days what people think of them. And for my take on it, I'll say goodbye to everybody. Enjoyed everything about it, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and as well as we did, Jarlath.
Well, Paul, that's it's going to be hard to add anything to that, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give Patsy the last word here. So go ahead, Patsy.
Well, as I say, Jarlath, Sunday night in Uri, the curtain came down on our championship season, and I thanked everybody, but I forgot to thank our Farati at Park Esler, Plunkett McCampbell. You think you try and cover everybody, Jarlath, but it's not. You do forget sometimes. But as I said at the top of the programme, down G.A.A. can hold their heads up high this year. Considering the situation we had with this COVID-19, we thought we're never going to see any football. We've seen the feast of football, in my opinion. And to all the winners and all the losers, even the teams that participated, thank you. And as I said, thank you and you, Jarlath, and Paul. And as I say, with Paula on early on the league, you had your league thing before I come on the scene. So well done to Paula too for her input and her help over the championship games. And Paul knows what I'm talking about there. So it's been a great year, and it's been a pleasure working with you. And hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, if you out there at home have enjoyed it, and if you do, as Paul said there, maybe down playing Leitrim, you never know. We might even get to maybe show that game to people. I don't know where we would be allowed to do that or not, but it would certainly,
we'll try it, Patsy. We'll try it. Aye.
To Paul, and good night to you, and thanks, Captain McCoy, very much.
All right. Well, wrap it up with that, lads. All the best, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jarlath. Thanks, Patsy.
Bye.
When you're out walking and there's no one near you, but a voice keeps calling and you hear you're near. It's not the leaves or the whispering breeze, it's me that's calling you back again. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? As you go through lonely London time, when evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. Come on home, night, to your mighty time. Do you remember the fiddler's play? The songs and stories the night long.
The time that you thought of leaving,
It seems so strange now as you walk home. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? As you walk through lonely London town, when evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. our dancing on Clanryan River. The teams are sporting in open glen. My heart no longer can lead the cheering. When you're not playing, it's a different game. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? As you roam through lonely London town. When evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. Come on home night to the country town. I'm always thinking that things are changing and that they're building our factories all. And young ones needed again in glory, but I still need you most of all. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? As you roam through lonely London town. When evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. Come on home night to the country town. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? As we go through lonely London town. When evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. Come on home night to the country town. Oh, come on home night to the country town.
A big shout out to Destination Uri and all the people in the surrounding areas. Hope you're all keeping well. Stay at home and watch us instead.
Damien, you are a legend, and I want you to keep up the great work that you're doing at the moment for Destination Uri. And this destination is beautiful, and everybody should come to Uri because I love this place. See you soon. See you soon.
Down our side. No, it's what he.